What is up, my fantastic fellow motorsports fanatics? Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to dive into the wonderful world of rally racing, which is personally my favorite type of motorsport. Well, at least a variant of it is. That's rallycross, in case you were wondering. We're going to look a little bit into the history of rally racing, tracing its roots all the way back to where it started in the late 1800s. And on top of that, we've got a special treat for you guys today. We're going to bring in an interview from this guy right here, who is trying to bring the WRC, or the World Rally Championship, back to the United States of America. This is super exciting. It's going to be a great video, so strap in, and yeah, let's have at it. This is Boosted Juice. Let's go. So, rally racing got to start with the first cars, with resilient drivers racing their often hand-built cars from city to city as fast as they could. The first real rally race was held in 1911, but going even deeper, we can trace the roots of that race back to Paris in the late 1800s, so it's fairly safe to say that it is the oldest form of motorsport that we have. Anyways, rally kept gaining popularity with more and more drivers and cars coming back after each race that was held. Now, World War I put a pause on rally racing in the early 1910s, but straight after that, they were right back at it. Wait, what's that you say? There was a second World War that shook everything to its core? Well, yeah, they also had to take a break for that, but as soon as that was done, they were again right back at it. And technological improvements in these rally cars, as you will soon see, went just about as fast as tech improved in World War I and II. So throughout the late 1940s, along with a bunch of other motorsports, rally racing started to really take form in Europe. Now, that wasn't really something that you got in the US in the late 40s, but in the 50s, it started to make its way across the Atlantic to the United States.
What's that you say? They're racing cars on dirt now? They're racing left and right turns? What kind of NASCAR is this?
As the sport gained traction, rally events across the entire globe, but mostly Europe, really started to take off. And in the US, well, it started to grow as well. The growing popularity of rally racing led to the formation of the National Rally Association in the early 1960s. It aimed to organize and regulate the sport, setting the stage for the first official championships. See, back in the early days of rally, it was all about testing the limits of the machines and the drivers. Together, the driver and co-pilot would navigate these hand-built cars from the 60s through the tightest twists and turns you can imagine, up mountain roads, on gravel, on snow, on dirt, on mud, whatever surface they can find, pretty much. And they did this very skillfully, but this is one of the most dangerous motorsports, and a bunch of people died doing it. As the sport progressed, rally cars evolved to meet the demands of the challenging terrain. Teams modified their vehicles, adding roll cages, off-road tires, and high-performance suspension. With these modifications, the racing became safer, which most would argue was pretty good for the sport. Now, these teams had to adapt these cars to handle the fiercest conditions known to man. They would drive through snow, through gravel, through dirt, like I said. In the 60s, it was all about modifying the cars to get them to go as fast as they could. Some of those modifications included stiffening up the chassis and tuning up the engines to make the cars go a little bit quicker, sound better, and be more appealing to drive. Every modification was aimed at making the cars more reliable, faster, and stronger to withstand all of the difficulties that rally racing can bring. In 1968, the National Rally Championship was born, bringing together talented drivers from all corners of the country. These rallies took participants through breathtaking landscapes, from the snow-covered mountains of Vermont to the arid deserts of the Southwest. In the 1970s, rally racing in the US saw huge gains in participation, both on the fan side and on the driver's side, which was pretty good for the growth of the sport. The drivers in the 70s seemed to be a bit of a different breed than the 60s, hungrier, fiercer, and more determined to win than the last generation of drivers. From seasoned professionals to amateur rally enthusiasts, the rally community flourished and grew to sizes never before seen in the US. All the while, in Europe, rally was doing wonderfully. In terms of the cars themselves, the 70s brought a lot of innovation, both in design and in technology. Manufacturers such as Ford, Lancia, Alpine, and Datsun, now Nissan, produced ridiculous new cars designed specifically to conquer the rough stages that rally racing offered. These machines were equipped with burly suspension and uniquely modified engines to outcompete and outrun all of the other rally cars on the grid. Tire technology also improved a ton, making the cars faster. With all these improvements, along with improvements in tire technology, the cars got faster and more difficult to control. Rally racing got more interesting and more eyeballs were drawn to it. Legendary rally cars like the Ford Escort RS, Lancia Stratos, and Datsun 240Z became iconic heroes of the 1970s rally scene all across the world. These cars, modified with parts built especially for rally, showcased big power, rugged handling, and distinctive looks. The unique liveries and roaring engines of these cars further added to the excitement of the sport and helped to bring it what rally most needed: a younger audience. As the 80s rolled in, rally racing witnessed a revolution in technology. Four-wheel drive systems, turbos, and innovative suspension systems became crucial elements to success in the sport. Rally cars evolved into high-performance machines capable of not just driving on, but conquering any terrain thrown at them. The advancements in rally car technology were incredible. The introduction of all-wheel drive changed the way the drivers handled their cars and gave them way more control. Along with that, bigger engines with turbos making way more power made the cars much faster and much more interesting to watch. The extra power, the better suspension, and the four-wheel drive launched Rally into the iconic Group B era of the 80s and 90s. The late 90s and early 2000s also marked an era of intense competition and fierce battles. Drivers like Carlos Sainz and Colin McRae dominated the rally scene, showcasing their exceptional skill and pushing the boundaries of the sport, while adding a factor of entertainment that can only be found by tight competition and great racing. These were some of the most thrilling times in rally racing history. The battles between the top two drivers marked legendary and made history. Each event was filled with nail-biting suspense and jaw-dropping displays of boldness, confidence, and bravery. As the new millennium progressed, rally racing expanded its horizons with the introductions of the X Games Rallycross and the Global Rallycross Championships. These events brought rally racing to a wider audience, fusing high-speed action with intense head-to-head battles. And in recent years, the United States rally scene has seen a huge surge in popularity, so much so that people are starting to try and bring the WRC, or World Rally Championship, the official World Rally Racing Championship, to the United States for the first time since the 1980s, when the Group B era was blowing up around the world. Spectators flock to current events to admire the amazing cars and the high-speed action that can only be really felt in rally racing. But that's not all, far from it. See, there's a little group called RallyUSA that are extremely dedicated to bringing WRC to the USA. So let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Stuart Wood, who works with RallyUSA, for a quick interview. All right, so thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited to make this video. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and hopefully we can make some cool happen with it.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah. So first off, would you like to tell me a little bit about yourself and what your hopes are with the organization and kind of what you do with it?
Sure. Sure. So my name is Stuart Wood. I'm the rally manager for the Rally USA project. Project's been going on for about 2 years now, and I got involved about 2.5 years. I got involved about a year into it, if you will, and brought on board because I'm local to the area that the rally is planned to occur, the WRC event, and also had a rallying background and project management background. So
awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And what got you into rally? What's your story with that?
So my father raced, did a lot of track racing types of things, and got me involved in that when I was a kid. And at some point I saw, on Saturday afternoon, I saw a rally on the Wild World of Sports here in the United States back in the 80s. And I thought that was pretty cool looking. And when a rally came to Southeast Tennessee in 2001, I volunteered for it and was a worker. And then the next year got crazy enough to be a co-driver for someone. And then a couple of years after that, started driving and did that for quite a number of years.
Man, that is awesome. What's your favorite thing you've driven?
We had E30s that we ran, as well as old Mitsubishi Lancers, Dodge Colts in the U.S. And I would say those Dodge Colts might have been my favorite. They're rear-wheel drive. It's the first generation of Lancer, basically. It's Safari Rally style vehicle, and they race historic classes in most places in the world, and they just are fun and light, and they're rear-wheel drive, so they slide sideways, which is always more fun.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So sorry, I'm looking over here to my laptop. I look over occasionally. I just have some interview questions on there that I want to make sure that I ask for the video. But that's just so you know, I'm not just like looking off. Um, so yeah, what inspired the like Rally USA and you to like really work towards pushing to get the WRC back in the States? Because it's been a while. It's been since the 80s, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's been about 36 years. So there have been a number of efforts to bring WRC back to the U.S. I mean, I think most rallyists in the U.S. would imagine that to be a pretty cool thing and have. And so the efforts were mostly from the U.S. side. And I think I don't know all of them, but there have been quite a few, and the few that I'm very familiar with were good events in the United States that thought, hey, we might be a good event to become a WRC event. So they pushed upward on the WRC and the FIA and WRC promoter organizations, which are in Europe, and said, hey, we want to be an event, right? And those efforts weren't all that successful, I think because probably the best direction for the pressure to come is from the top down. So what's happened is that's a little different this time is that the manufacturers, one of which is Ford, so it's a U.S. company, they said, hey, the U.S. is a big market. We think that there's big potential there, but there's no WRC event in the United States, and we're manufacturing sponsors of the series. We want to see a WRC event occur in the United States.
Interesting.
And so that pressure was then on the FIA, or not pressure, but that conversation started at that level with the FIA and the WRC promoter. And then they went looking for a location in the United States. So because of that being the direction, I think it's probably got a better chance of success. And that's this approach is probably the first time that's happened in this period of time.
Yeah, so it's super deep rooted. The manufacturers are like on board, and it's looking like there's a lot of support from more than just fans and drivers then.
Correct. Yep. And more than just more than just the U.S. rally organization itself, but the worldwide rally organizations. Yes.
Which is awesome. That's really cool. I'm really glad. So I'm a huge fan of rally. I went to my first race. It was a rally cross race this last fall. It was in Germany. I lived there for the last while. It was at the Nürburgring, and that was so cool. And I've been in love pretty much ever since, trying to get as much as I can of it. And it's really really cool sport. So I'm super happy. I
Right.
hope I can come to an event at some point, but it's probably a ways out because I'm kind of broke right now. So
Well,
um
there's a good schedule of both NASA and ARA events across the U.S.
yeah,
So, getting involved. I mean, go and volunteer for an event. Don't just go
yeah,
and watch, right? Raise
yeah,
your
for sure.
hand and go volunteer. It'll
Yeah,
get you more knowledge and it'll make it more meaningful.
yeah, which makes sense. Yeah. So how do you believe hosting the WRC in the US would benefit not just like the US and motorsport fans here, but also like the WRC in general?
I mean, I think we throw this term, and I even threw this term around a moment ago, that the U.S. is a huge market,
Mhm.
right? And I think so. We all sort of inherently know that we are a big market for motorsports, right? The Americans love vehicles, and we were pioneers in vehicles, and so a lot of our identity is wrapped up in vehicles, and so I think that that's an inherent understanding, right?
Mhm.
How that translates into benefit for companies and sponsors. I think there's some direct benefit, right? If you're selling a vehicle that's a WRC competed vehicle, then maybe the fan's going to want to go buy that. But I think more importantly than that, it's sort of speaking. WRC, in my opinion, is speaking to something that is very inherently American,
Mhm.
which is a much more independent way of racing,
Yeah.
right? So track racing, and I love it, and I have for my whole life. Um, but track racing is much more, laboratory-like environment for racing.
Mhm.
Rally is the polar opposite of that.
Yeah.
You don't have any defined, um, you don't have any manicured course. The course is very rudimentary. It's basically the natural road,
Yeah.
and the driver and the navigator are out there on their own trying to figure out how to get the car through the course as fast as they can and fix it if they need to. You also have a huge team effort when they get back to the services because you have a long service, much longer services than you do in other events. So I just feel that independence that rally speaks to is very American. So long answer to your question is why will rally, what will be good about it in the United States is that I think that when the average American fan sees a very independent form of racing where people have to figure things out on their own, it's going to speak to them. And they're going to
Yeah.
say, man, I feel like that's me, right? That's something that touches my heart as an American.
Cool. And that's kind of something that everybody can get involved in. Like you can rally any car, not saying it's going to be good, but you can pretty much throw anything on a dirt road and try and drive it fast.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is much lower in rally than a lot of other racing.
Yeah.
It's not zero, right? But you have to have a few bucks. But the average person can go from, well, like me, can go from fan to worker to co-driver to driver, all in a matter of, a short period of time without a
Yeah.
whole lot of dollars. Yeah, because of the style of racing it is.
Yeah. Like you need a cage and you need some safety stuff on top of that, but there's not like you can race pretty much anything, which is I think is really really cool.
Yep. And the connection between the types of vehicles, like you're saying, and the fans is much direct across all manufacturers, right?
Hmm.
The cars that we're racing from WRC 1 all the way down to the most grassroots person, they're basically just normal street cars that you can see yourself driving, or you may have driven to the event, right? You may have gotten
Yeah.
in a Ford Focus and driven to a rally, and then you walk across the hill, see a Ford Focus rally car, tear up a gravel road, and go, wow, that's awesome. And then you go back and get in the same car.
Yeah, which is really cool. Like I was at a car meet this morning. There was probably 20 WRXs there, and like that's the type of stuff that like it's the same thing. You just have beefier suspension that's not going to break. You have stuff that's like beefed up, and you have a little bit more power, but it's the same chassis, and you're working with pretty much the same stuff. So it's really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also, I think that the nature of rally, and this is, when you're in my position, or in the position of most of us at Other Sport, which is the company that we have to promote this rally, we're having to explain what rally is to a lot of people that don't know what rally is, right? You're having to explain this to government officials and to locals and potential sponsors. And so you have to figure out how to explain it really efficiently. One of the things that I usually bring up is that the connection between the champions and the average spectator is that connection is as direct as it could possibly be. And the example I usually give is, if a spectator wants to be inches away from, the number one driver in the world at a WRC event, all they have to do is know where the service area is, know what the itinerary is for the race, and when the world champion drives out on the public road to transit in the morning, they can pull up at a traffic light right next to them, and you can roll your window down, and you could look over and you could say, hey, I think you're awesome. And they're probably going to be nice, and gentlemanly about it, and they're probably going to say hello to you back, and so on. So that connection is amazing, right?
Yeah,
And you just don't in other sports as well.
that's so cool. So then one question that kind of builds off that is how do you engage and attract American spectators and sponsors? Because a lot of them don't know what rally is. Like it's a very niche motorsport here, and motorsport is already it's somewhat niche here. Like it's less so than it was 5 years ago, but it's not as big as other sports. So how do you attract American fans and sponsors then?
Well, I mean, I'm a big believer that it doesn't take a lot to attract a fan once they see it happen, right? Once someone
Yeah.
sees rally come close, they pretty much immediately become a fan of it. So it sells itself. Yes, there's a job of getting people to events. That's a matter of marketing and word of mouth and hosting lots of events, right? You have to have small events for people to go close to where they are, and then they like them, and they go to further away ones. So I think that will build on itself pretty well. To be honest, the first group of fans that probably are going to be populating the first WRC event that we have here is probably European fans or overseas fans. The demand, the desire for a U.S. event is big across the whole world, including the fan base overseas. So I think a lot of people are going to come in the U.S. for a visit to see the first or second or third WRC event here. And then the U.S. fans will build over time.
Yeah.
But once again, with a lot of people in the United States, so as we build, we're going to be quite the force to be reckoned with as far as fan base. Manufacturers or sponsors is a little different story. I think the manufacturers they're helping this first effort, but because they're helping with more sponsorship at the beginning of this, because they are the sponsors that understand the market and the benefit best.
Yeah.
The other sponsors, some of the worldwide sponsors that sponsor rally around the world, that also have divisions or marketing that occurs in the United States, they are the easiest ones to explain this to, because they already maybe sponsor World Rally, or just rally in general around the world, and so they get it.
Yeah.
But I've had plenty of conversations with name brand companies. I can't really name them
Yeah.
at the moment, but with plenty of name brand companies that all I have to do is show a video clip or speak a little bit in detail about rally, and they realize there's a fan base there, and they realize there's
Mhm.
benefit there.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. So, how do you think the event in April impacted your chances of like having a WRC event here in the US? Was that pretty successful, would you say? Or
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, that event in April was very, specific thing we were trying to attempt.
Hmm.
The Forest Service, the Cherokee National Forest here in Southeast Tennessee had not seen a rally in something like 14 years or so, maybe 15 years. And so all the previous generation of people that had been here have moved on for the most part.
Hmm.
So that group of people that run that forest needed to see an event happen safely and see us close a road safely and then repair a road up to the specs or beyond the specs that were of the road beforehand. That was really a proof of the environment event
Hmm.
um, than anything else, and also to get people a little bit of an understanding of what rally can be like. It's from a local side.
Yeah.
So the weather was horrible, absolutely horrible. It rained like crazy, and so the road conditions were really bad. But with that said, we had a ton of safety equipment and crews out there. We ran a handful of cars down the roads a lot of times back and forth, partly doing their recce, then partly doing some testing for themselves, and then a couple of VIP passes. The road conditions that were pretty good. I mean, the road held up pretty well
Hmm.
despite the bad conditions. We went back and repaired the entire 10-mile section of road, not just the pieces we used,
Hmm.
to make sure the Forest Service understood that we meant it when we said we were going to do a good job of putting it back better than we found it.
Yeah.
So no, that I think that relationship piece of it, the testing of the road itself and the environment, all those pieces were exactly what we'd hoped. It wasn't an actual rally. It wasn't
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't prove that we can host a rally on these roads, or that we can do some of the hospitality things and spectator things that we need to be able to do for WRC. So
Yeah.
the next 4 events we have planned are to do those things or to test those things.
Okay, cool. And when are those coming up?
So November the 11th, announcement will come out later today about this.
Hmm.
November the 11th will be a test, or I'm sorry, a full rally, a 1-day rally on private land, but adjacent to the Cherokee National Forest.
Okay, cool.
About 2,000 acres of old industrial land, mining land that the owners are huge supporters of this effort, and so they've volunteered the land for us to use. There are about 20 miles of road on that land.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, yeah. And some of it's absolutely beautiful, sweeping gravel road, tight and twisty stuff, some that goes up and down. I mean, there's a
Hmm.
lot of nice character to it. So we're going to run one on November 11th, also in April, also in June, and then also in October of next year. So we're going to have a series of events that are going to use that property. The June event of next year will also be a larger event, so we'll use
Hmm.
more than just that property. We have a permit request in that's been in for a couple of months for Cherokee National Forest. And so that will be a 3-day event running the private land plus the forest land. And pending the approval of the application, of course. And then that will be a much grander, hospitality heavy, spectator friendly event.
Like a WRC proof of concept event, like a full, like pretty much what it would be.
Yes. Yeah,
Cool.
we'll be running a in this case Friday night super special stage. We have a few different locations, but we have, hopefully it'll be downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's the goal. There'll be tarmac, and then we'll run a full day Saturday in the woods. There'll be 4 stages. We'll run 3 pub on Cherokee Forest, and then 1 private land, the land I mentioned. Then we'll run those again. So there'll be 8 stages on Saturday. Then we'll run 2 to 3 stages on Sunday, concluding with a power stage.
Hmm.
Much the same way that a WRC event would have a Sunday half day or so with a power stage at the conclusion.
Cool.
And that will also use that private land. So that's the schedule. Basically, it's very much like a WRC schedule minus 1 day.
Nice. So that's, yeah, wishing you guys the best for that. Do you guys need volunteers or drivers for that? Because I've got a friend who drives pretty much everything you can get behind. If you guys need something, I can help try and volunteer him. And if I can make it out, I'd be happy to volunteer to help out with anything needed.
Absolutely. Any of those events we can use volunteers for. That big event in June, we definitely are going to need a lot more people. We have to get to about 1,500 workers, trained workers,
Okay.
by the time we have a WRC event.
Wow.
So we have about 600 volunteers that have volunteered so far, which is fabulous. We're super excited about the interest that's been shown. So those 600 workers I think we have about 70 or so that are trained up to a couple of the low standards, a couple of the lighter positions that we have.
Cool.
And so all the events I mentioned are training events and demonstration of skill events. So we have a lot of training that's online. We're putting more and more online every day. We've created an enormous training platform, if you will, for WRC worker training.
Nice.
That goes from basic marshaling up to scrutineering positions that take 4 years to qualify for.
Dang.
So there's a huge range of training options, and that training we started doing it about 2 weeks ago in an event in September. We trained about 50 workers that day. That training has about 24 different modules, and from 0 up to the most senior position. And so the idea is that you would start doing that training online. You come to a physical event, either our 4 events or a partner event, like the Bristol Forest Rally or Sandblast Rally in South Carolina, and you can get signed off by someone who's certified to sign you off at those events. So online plus a physical sign off, and then you're in a position to work in those positions that you're signed off for at any of our events.
Cool.
Yep. So
Yeah.
we do workers. So push people to go to our website and sign up as volunteers. We will make sure that they're aware of every opportunity for training that's available. As more and more online stuff gets put online, we'll push that out to that group, and then we'll have all these physical events for them to come participate in.
Cool. Great. And I'll sign up for that, and I'll see if I can make something happen with that. I'm not 100% sure of my schedule next summer, but I'll see if I can come out for some stuff.
No worries. The more people that are aware that we're doing it, and once again, if you volunteer on the website, then you'll get pushes of information, and they'll be on social media as well. But those scheduled dates for physical training or for other rallies, like I said, that will be hosting our training, you'll be aware of all that.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thanks. So back to questions kind of about bringing the WRC here. Do we think the WRC events here would be sustainable for long-term efforts? Do you think that's something that could happen, or do you think it's more of like a one and done type situation?
Once you build the infrastructure to put on a WRC event in a particular place, you really need to use it for a number of years to make economic sense of it. So the plan is to run a 5-year cycle of events. That's the plan. So whether something sticks around after that, I mean, I think the idea is that it should, or hopefully it would. The WRC promoter, once again, they govern the schedule around the world. But I think once they see value here and sponsors see value, there wouldn't be a lot of reason to pull out of a race for, just because.
Yeah.
The other thing is logistics. One of the benefits of having a U.S. event is that they have the WRC promoter, and as well as all of the teams have an overseas kit for the service area and all of their support needs. And that kit is separate from their European kit. And so if they push that to the United States for maybe an event in the US, then they can more efficiently and cheaply move it to Central America, or say to Mexico or to South America for events, and do a series of events back to back in the Americas, which would be way cheaper for moving that material around, than moving it, to the United States and then back over to, let's say, Kenya or something. So logistics efficiency is actually one of the real drivers behind this effort for teams and the manufacturers and other teams and so on.
Yeah, that's not something I would have thought about. So, is it right if I ask you one more question before I let you go then?
Sure.
So when do you think that we'll see a WRC event here? What's your time frame that you have in mind?
The objective is to be in the running for something in the year 2025.
Okay.
There are a lot of factors that affect that.
Yeah, of
Once
course.
again, a lot of lead-up events. We have a target that is 25 or 26, and so we have that flexibility because we're trying to be realistic about what we have to shoot for. But yes, we're shooting for the earlier, but we're aware of it maybe need to be pushed if it has to.
So after the interview, what do you guys think that the WRC holds for the USA? Well, personally, I think that the future is going to be wonderful. We just saw great success with the event that they held in early April, and we're looking forward to another event early this September. I don't think we're going to see a WRC event in the United States in 2024, and I think 2025 is possible, but a bit of a stretch. In my eyes, 2026 is the earliest that we're going to get an actual WRC event, but nothing's fully off the table yet. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'm very excited to get back into the channel. I'm sorry I've been gone for a while. I had some personal stuff come up, but we're back now, and we should be posting every week again. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been Boost the Juice. Catch you next time.